The story begins with Maddie, a teenage girl trapped in the afterlife, who finds herself investigating her unexplained disappearance. Currently, she's trying to focus on a school meeting led by the principal, who draws everyone's attention to the latest event. The police are considering a missing person investigation for her. Meanwhile, conversations among the students reveal that Maddie's blood was found in the boiler room, and it is suspected that she did not have her phone when she disappeared. Shortly afterward, Maddie encounters Charlie, a fellow ghost who has been haunting the school since the 90s. Despite his attempts to make her feel at ease in the afterlife, Maddie is unhappy with her new situation. Charlie shows her around the school and introduces her to the support group for deceased individuals, led by another ghost named Mr. Martin. During their conversation, Maddie mentions that her blood was discovered in the boiler room, though her body has never been found. Wally, a fellow spirit, speculates that she might have been murdered and that the perpetrator might have hidden her body. However, Maddie finds the whole experience of the afterlife support group unsettling, particularly as she doesn't know how she died. Determined to find out what is really going on, Maddie decides to leave and investigate further. Her school, Split Rivers High School, is home to many ghosts as numerous students and faculty members have passed away over the years. Maddie learns about several of them during her time in the support group. For instance, Rhonda was murdered by her guidance counselor, while Charlie suffered a fatal allergic reaction. Even a musical band died in the school during a storm and are said to still practice their performance in the afterlife. Maddie also discovers the story of Dawn, a girl who died in the 60s, possibly due to a bad acid trip. As she tries to piece together her situation, Maddie reminisces about moments she shared with her boyfriend, Xavier, and her best friends, Simon and Nicole. Charlie and Maddie then take a tour of the school, where they stumble upon her vandalized missing person poster. However, when she tries to tear it down, Charlie explains that she can't alter anything in the world of the living. Meanwhile, inside a class, Simon becomes agitated when no one volunteered to join the search party for Maddie. He even singles out Xavier and asks why he hadn't added his name to the volunteering list. Xavier arrogantly replies that there's no point in searching, which eventually leads to a scuffle between the two, during which Maddie's phone falls out of Xavier's bag. Despite this, Maddie still feels connected to Xavier and believes he may have a good reason for having her phone. However, the other ghosts warn her not to investigate her death, suggesting that some things are better left unknown. They instead encourage her to move on to the afterlife and relax, but Maddie remains fixated on solving the mystery of her murder. Later, the support group advises Maddie that taking matters into her own hands may not yield any results and that it would be better to talk about her feelings instead. She replies that the support group seems to have lost their sense of time and memory of their past. She then storms out of the school grounds but miraculously returns to the boiler room where she was last present in her mortal form. After several attempts, Maddie finally realizes she cannot leave the school premises because she died there. The next day, a vigil is being held for Maddie. Her mother attends, having recently completed a 2-week rehab program. Meanwhile, the police take Xavier in for questioning and uncover evidence that he has been cheating on Maddie with a cheerleader named Claire. Xavier had mistakenly sent a text to Maddie asking her to change her route so that she wouldn't see him with Claire, but because Maddie's phone battery died, she had not seen the message. This is why Xavier stole her phone, to delete the evidence of his infidelity. In the afterlife, Maddie hears everything, and it breaks her heart. During the vigil, Simon apologizes to a teacher for his earlier altercation with Xavier. However, he also believes that something serious has happened to Maddie. As her longtime friend, he knows she's a determined and independent person who wouldn't simply run away without reason. Emotionally overwhelmed, Simon moves to a corner of the classroom to stand by the window. Through tears, he watches the others gather outside with lit candles in their hands. Maddie, who is also deeply saddened, stands beside him and thanks him for being there for her when no one else seems to care about her absence. At this moment, Simon becomes aware of Maddie's presence and looks directly at her, calling out her name. It soon dawns on him that he can actually see her spirit. Maddie, Charlie, and Simon are all bewildered by this unexpected turn of events. However, this also confirms one thing for sure. Maddie is indeed dead. Despite the shock, Maddie wastes no time and confides in Simon that Xavier had been unfaithful to her with Claire. However, before she can disclose more details, Nicole arrives and summons Simon to join the search. Maddie tries to follow them, but as she reaches the school fence, she is abruptly transported back to the boiler room. Later, Charlie cautions Maddie not to reveal to other ghosts that she can communicate with humans, fearing they may exploit her ability to send messages from the afterlife. But she ignores his advice and raises the topic during the support group meeting, asking if anyone has ever tried to communicate with the living. The other ghosts conclude that she struggles to escape her past life. Mr. Martin suggests helping Maddie find closure by writing her obituary. Initially, she refuses the idea and leaves the group alone on the school grounds. However, Mr. Martin follows her, and they have a heart-to-heart conversation. Maddie confides in him that she's constantly worried about her mother, whose only caregiver is Maddie herself. Mr. Martin empathizes with her situation and encourages her to write her obituary to move on from her past disappointments. He claims that this would give her a sense of closure from her mortal life and help her find peace in the afterlife. Meanwhile, Xavier is under house arrest imposed by his father, the chief sheriff in the police department. Though Xavier wants to return to school, his father insists he stay low-key for the time being. We get to know that Xavier is struggling with depression and has been avoiding contact with Claire. It becomes clear that he's hiding something when Claire visits him later. He tries to make her leave, but when Claire insists on talking, he says that he's afraid Maddie's body will be discovered. This indicates that Xavier knows Maddie is no longer alive. When his father asks why he had Maddie's phone, which they found empty, Xavier claims that he doesn't know anything as he couldn't figure out the passcode. However, it's revealed that the phone did not belong to Maddie. Xavier is well aware of this fact but doesn't say it out loud. In the following scene, Maddie pulls Simon to a storage room where she and Xavier often hung out, hoping to find something useful. They get lucky when Simon discovers a fragment of Maddie's actual phone. Uncertain about what to do with it, Simon decides to hand it over to Mr. Anderson, a literature teacher at the school. He fears it might end up in the hands of Xavier's father, who could destroy it as evidence. Simon then shares with Maddie that her mother, Sandra, did not see her before her disappearance. This indicates that they may have had a falling out. Hearing this, Maddie realizes that she has no concrete recollection of her final hours. A few days later, Mr. Anderson acts suspiciously when police dogs arrive to search the school classroom. Meanwhile, when Maddie and Simon return to the storage room to look for more clues, they discover another piece of her phone. However, Mr. Anderson unexpectedly appears and prevents Simon from continuing his investigation. It is becoming clear that Mr. Anderson is involved in something bigger than any of them could have anticipated. In a flashback scene, Mr. Anderson kindly offers Maddie a listening ear if she ever needs someone to talk to. He then gives her a coin that once belonged to his father, revealing his own shared experiences of growing up with an alcoholic parent. Since Maddie is struggling with her own demons, she finds solace in Mr. Anderson's experiences and regards him as a good person. In the present, however, Simon is convinced that Mr. Anderson is involved in her disappearance. He implores Maddie to keep a closer eye on him. Desperate for evidence to back up his suspicions, Simon steals Mr. Anderson's car keys. He later searches the car and discovers the piece of Maddie's phone from earlier. Surprisingly, Mr. Anderson had not turned over the potential evidence to the police, adding another suspicion to his character. A few days later, Maddie learns about Rhonda's tragic death during the support group's field day and becomes close to her. Rhonda reveals that her guidance counselor, Mr. Manfredo, was the only person interested in her emotional and academic well-being. However, when Rhonda received her college application results, Mr. Manfredo became enraged, accusing her of having a romantic relationship with him. When she tried to reason with him, he lost his cool and ended up murdering her. Although he was arrested and later died in prison, Rhonda never found closure in her mortal life. Maddie is saddened by this story but becomes driven to uncover more details. She soon discovers that the classroom where she can communicate with Simon is the renovated office of Rhonda's guidance counselor. This revelation implies that Split River High School may have a dark and ominous history. In the meantime, it's revealed that Xavier has been eavesdropping on Simon and Nicole's conversation while at the library. Nicole receives a notification about a photo posted by Maddie in the elevator control room, which used to be their hangout spot. The picture prompts Nicole to rush to that location, where she finds Xavier following her. When questioned about his intentions, Xavier insists he is innocent and has an alibi to prove it. Eventually, they start talking, and Xavier reveals to Nicole that he has met Sandra, who is deeply upset because the police have halted the search party for Maddie. The two of them later meet Sandra near the forest and begin their investigation. During the search, they come across Maddie's ticket for the event she had planned to attend with Xavier. Meanwhile, Simon and Maddie conduct their own investigation in Mr. Anderson's room. Maddie confides in Simon that a year ago, she was involved in a car accident caused by her mother's reckless drunk driving. Maddie had called Mr. Anderson at the time to keep the incident under wraps, fearing that the police would take her mother away. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted when Mr. Anderson enters the room while talking on the phone. The teenagers quickly hide in the closet, where they overhear Mr. Anderson admitting to someone on the phone that he shouldn't have given money to Maddie. Hearing this, Maddie is shocked as she has no recollection of receiving money from her teacher. In the final scene, they continue to listen to Mr. Anderson's conversation until he leaves the room. At this moment, Maddie notices a shifted tile in his closet. She points it out to Simon, who opens it to reveal a stash of money hidden inside the wall. This discovery indicates that Mr. Anderson may be involved in something far more sinister than they had originally thought.